football taught me, that brought the best out of me, to be proud of who I am and what I represent.
I grew up in Sydney, working class family, working class environment there in Sydney, and basically a city boy. I think I'd get lost in the bush.
I was born in Taree, mid-North Coast. I'm a Biripi man from the Biripi land. We're known as, from the Manning River. We're the sea hunters. Our totem is the shark. So I grew up in till younger age, from when I was born till probably 6 or 7. My mother and father had separated, and Mum and my younger brother, we moved up to the Gold Coast, away from the family. And that's where I sort of, my friends at school, they all played soccer, and I just followed suit. And I think I was in year 4 or year 5 when I first went to school at Canninja State School on the Gold Coast. And from that moment on, people, fell in love with the round ball game.
My dad's Wiradjuri man. Wiradjuri is central New South Wales, and it's probably one of the largest, if not the largest, mob in the country in terms of territory, perhaps not in numbers. My mother is a Yorta woman on the Murray River, which crosses over New South Wales into Victoria. Mum and Dad met in Sydney, married in Sydney, and that's where I was born in Sydney. I'm one of 10 children. I'm number 2 on the list, and I grew up in Sydney along with brothers and sisters. 2 of us, a younger brother and myself, were looked after by an aunt and uncle, and basically we were raised by our aunt and uncle. So our contact with my biological family was limited, and that become less when Mum and Dad and my brothers and sisters moved to Victoria to live, and I continued to grow up and raised with my aunt and uncle in Sydney. Working class family, working class environment there in Sydney, and I learned more about the mob and other growers in and around Sydney. So I'm basically a city boy. I think I'd get lost in the bush.
I missed a lot of culture, a lot of that spirituality that's inside of us all. That's how we connect with the land and with our people and our mob, and even still today, I'm meeting all of my family, my cousins. My dad's one of 9 brothers and sisters. So, just to give you an example, I've got 64 first cousins. I'm actually a Morris from Taree. My nan was a Mitchell. And I'm related. Obviously, my cousin is Latrell Mitchell, Matty Mitchell. I used to hang out with him when he was younger. And had I not moved up to the Gold Coast, because on the Gold Coast is really, really strong through the juniors, and it always has been, and it still is today. And I'm very fortunate, because at my time growing up, I was the only Indigenous kid at school that was playing soccer, even at my club level. And, even when I was in the national team under 17s and all the junior, under 17s, under 20s, under 23s, I was the only Indigenous kid that was playing. And the next one next to me, above me, was Travis Dodd as well. So, and I had a really close relationship, and still today with Travis Dodd. A lot of the unfortunate things that happen in Indigenous communities today, and Mum didn't want to sort of, the domestic violence and being in a small Indigenous or non-Indigenous, it was just a hard place to sort of bring up two young kids. And she just wanted a better life for us, and I'm thankful that she did. But it's all about, when I go back and meet all my uncles and aunties, it's great to meet everyone, because it's just like yesterday, that when you go back and meet everyone, You know, it's great to be back with family. And you know, my dad and his brothers and sisters, they did have a hard life. You know, it was only back in the 60s, I think it was, they weren't even allowed to cross the Taree Bridge to go into Taree because they weren't classed as citizens, you know. And you know, my dad and his brothers and sisters they got all brought up in white families, and that's just the way it was back then. So yeah, so you know, football's taught me a lot, and it's brought me to where I am today, and I'm proud of, you know, who I am and what I've accomplished. And you know, and it was tough growing up because, you know, I used to hear the little remarks and things like that. You know, the racial sort of stuff, even at school, and when they were young in year 4, year 5, and you know, it was embarrassing. You know, you were ashamed to be Indigenous. You know, so but that's where football taught me. You know, that brought the best out of me, to be proud of who I am and what I represent. And it was, I think, after I won my first award when I was playing at Olympic back in the NSL. You know, it was the Deadly Vibes back in the day. And you win this cool little Deadly Vibe ring, and it was pretty cool, you know, because I think it was 18 or 19 at the time, and that just springboarded me and gave me the confidence to be, you know, proud of who I am and where I'm from, and just to teach all the young kids that are coming through, because I know a lot of kids have the same problem today with a lot of the racial abuse and the anxiety of not fitting into society. So, you know, that's why I love football, and it's taken me to, you know, under 17s, 20, 23s, and, you know, get to play with the Socceroos, you know, and be part of the golden generation that, you know, we really admire today and still talk about. And, yeah, for me, and the same, you know, with Harry, we just obviously want to see some more, you know, Indigenous kids come through and represent the round ball code, because if you look at the other codes, they do it so well with the AFL and the rugby league. You know, I think with the AFL they make up 8 to 9% of each roster, and you know, I think at the time I was playing, when Travis retired, you know, I was the only Indigenous player playing in the A League, and you know, we need to certainly get those numbers up, and I think we will.
Yeah, football or sport, yeah, they're great things to participate in. It's certainly something that we should be looking at more in our sport, how we can connect with you know, the Indigenous people in the country, because we certainly do have a lot to offer. Made the national side after 6 first grade games, and established myself over the coming years in the first team and with the national side. And the 1970 squad, the Australian squad back then, become the nucleus. That was the platform for the squad for the 74 World Cup. There were players that moved in and out of that squad. And I was fortunate enough to stay in the squad for most of that time, and fortunate enough to be selected for the national team, and that the 22 players that went to Germany in 1974. We all feel, you know, very privileged to have one been selected to have made that squad. You know, you could have picked another 22, 30 players to go on tour, so it would have been a tough decision, and we're really just so grateful to have made it and to have that experience and to play against, to rub shoulders and play against players like Sam Secondar. We were only part-time players back then. You know, we were semi-professional, and we made the World Cup finals at 16 back in the day. So it was a pretty special occasion for all of us.
On an individual sort of milestone, my proudest moment, it was sort of as a sportsman, but off the field, was the 2016 NAIDOC Sportsperson of the Year. And it was just great, you know, to be recognised by not just football, but your own mob, your own community. And, you know, it's a pretty prestigious award to be able to have that, you know, sitting at home was something special. So, and, you know, my sort of proudest moment with the national team, you know, obviously would have been captaining the Socceroos. You know, although we only played it was a friendly game. It was in Singapore before we played with Pim Verbeek was the coach at the time, and Harry Kuehl was captain. He came off at halftime injured because he had, his groins weren't that great at the time. I think it was his groin. And then Pim Verbeek just sort of looked around, and because I just lifted the trophy with Newcastle, I mean, he just threw me the captain's armband. So that's a special time, moments in my career.
I have been invited and I have accepted a role as ambassador for the Charles Perkins Indigenous Pathways program, which is tied up with the new Macarthur Football Club in Sydney, in Campbelltown. So we would have a meeting earlier in the year and to have a forum discussion about the program and where to from here. But because of the pandemic, that's put a hold on everything.
Last year, we were at the Indigenous tournament up here in Caboolture, and my company, Vivid Property Services, we sponsored a front jersey sponsor, so we could get, our team was the Malians United, so it was based, from Tari Biripi, sort of where I'm from. We had a few boys from sort of up Kempsey Way, a little bit south as well, and I'm the National Indigenous Ambassador for Give It, and it's a charity that links in well what I'm doing here, and it's an online sort of warehouse where people can donate items and goods. That's what I do. So I work with currently with Vivid Property Services, and I do a lot of sort of charity work in the Indigenous space to help give back.